boroughs that make up New York City is the traditional homeland of the Lenape, Merrick, Canarsie, Rockaway, Montauk, and Haudenosaunee peoples. These lands are also the intertribal trade lands and are under the stewardship of many more indigenous nations today. New York City is home to the largest population of intertribal Native Americans, First Nations, and indigenous individuals out of any urban city across Turtle Island, the United States. We acknowledge the systematic erasure of many nations and recognize those that are still among us today. We acknowledge the people of these nations, their cultures, their communities, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. And we acknowledge and we offer the deepest gratitude to Mannahatta, the land and waters on which we stand. So I wanted to say, yes. I want to say, first of all, thank you to everybody who's come out today. Thank you to all the groups from Code Pink to Vital Voices, to all the Afghan groups and all the Afghan artists and speakers who are here today, and all of you who have come out to rise for and with the women of Afghanistan. And I want to say everything we're doing today is in concert with and in direction with our sisters on the ground in Afghanistan. I spoke to them last night and they said that they were all crying to think that women and men were rising across this planet because we care, because we see, because we will not forget the people of Afghanistan and all of their suffering. So I want to thank you all so much for coming out today. This morning I went online and I saw Afghanistan risings in the Philippines, in Bangladesh, all over India, all over Africa, in Germany, everywhere. Before I speak, I just want to take a moment. One of my dearest sisters on the planet died this morning. Her name is Kamla Basin, and she was literally one of the greatest women of India in the feminist movement. She was literally a column that kept the feminist movement and women's liberation and freedom alive. So in her name, I want to just say, we love you, Kamla. We are rising for you today, and we know you are rising for the great feminist angels in the sky. So I want to say everything I'm about to say has been led and directed by Afghan women inside the country. I am rising today for and with my sisters in Afghanistan. I'm rising against imperialism, militarism, fascism, and religious fundamentalism. And I just want to take a moment before I get into this. I know a lot of us are feeling immense grief. I know for me, I haven't stopped crying for the last month. So let's just take a moment to pause and feel our grief and just really let ourselves know the sadness we're feeling and hold that in this moment if we can. Thank you, and just be aware of everybody around you. Let's make sure we're spaced apart so we can keep our masks on so all of us are safe and healthy and well. I'm rising today against the recent mistaken U.S. drone strikes that killed 10 members of a family and 7 children. I'm rising against the hundreds of those mistaken strikes. Verbal apologies are hollow and insulting. We need real accountability and reparations. I'm rising so the world stops treating the beautiful, beloved people of Afghanistan as if they were objects, pawns on a power map that gets used and abused and murdered in the economic and geopolitical interests of superpowers. I'm rising for our city of knowledge that was run and directed by Afghan women and has been successfully educating women in Kabul for over 10 years, which is now devastatingly closed. I'm rising for my adopted daughter Zoya, who I met 20 years when I was invited by RAWA to come to Afghanistan, and she is now 42, and she has never known a day in her life without war. I'm rising following the lead of RAWA and other sisters in Afghanistan who have been rising for literally 20 years to fight off the U.S. occupation, warlords, and the Taliban. They are saying, and we must all insist, that we do not recognize the Taliban. Afghanistan, particularly girls and women, and already we are seeing the tortures beginning. I'm rising to support the women's resistance, and yesterday I had the pleasure of putting on Democracy Now! Belkis Roshan's interview that I did with her, and she's one of the fiercest, most amazing women who has been literally standing up in the parliament, speaking back to the Taliban, speaking back to the friends of the Taliban, saying no to the U.S. occupation, saying no to releasing the Taliban prisoners, releasing the prisoners. And I just want to say there are so many fierce, gorgeous, brilliant women in Afghanistan, and I am rising today that they can take back their country and lead it in the direction that is self-determined. I am rising that we continue to welcome refugees, and I want to say something. We have to really be careful we do not let the imperialists divide us. I am also rising for the Haitian refugees, that every single one of them gets led into this country. And it's not about either or, it's about all and. We have to rise for the Afghans and we have to rise for the Haitians. And I'm rising that we get aid into Afghanistan as soon as possible, but we make sure it gets into the hands of women and into the hands of the people and not into the hands of the Taliban. Yeah. And I'm rising to cut the Pentagon budget and stop spending obscene amounts on war and destruction, and that we create a feminist foreign policy which really is reflecting human security and care and connection. And I have to say, as I said earlier, I am rising in the most profound grief. There's something about what's happened in the last month that has just ripped my soul apart. But I know the only way we can turn our grief into something that doesn't paralyze us is to move into action, is to move into solidarity, is to say collectively we refuse what is happening in Afghanistan, and we will not forget, and we will continue. And lastly, I want to say, there's something about not allowing music. To me, music is how our souls are nurtured, how our souls grow. So I am rising that music returns to Afghanistan, that it runs through the soul of the country. And I'm rising right now with all of you. We will continue to rise. This is not a one-shot deal. We will continue to rise, and we must keep building this coalition and building this movement so we do not forget Afghanistan. We do not forget our sisters. We stay in solidarity. We have an amazing program this afternoon of gorgeous Afghan activists, leaders, and artists, and women who've been working with Afghan women for many years. And we're going to begin with our sisters on the ground did interviews, and they got us beautiful testimonies of Afghan women. And I want to introduce two amazing women who came here. Literally, they have to go to their shows on Broadway. Anastasia McCleskey and Jerry-Ann Perez, who are both in Waitress. And they're going to come and read two testimonies. So please welcome them.